Welcome to Trustworthy AI podcast. Here, as you know, I talk about how to de-risk business adoption of AI. This particular episode, we are bringing to you from Trustworthy AI. Okay, hold on. Let me just start again. Stop.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Trustworthy AI, de-risk business adoption of AI. This episode is brought to you by Trusted AI. I'll encourage you to look at the show notes and look at how Trusted AI as a service is helping companies de risk adoption of AI with a monthly subscription service. Today's topic is the trustworthy AI imperative from a investment lens. As we know, the broader business community is already struggling with risks such as data breaches, privacy loss, job loss, ethical challenges, and misinformation, disinformation. And to protect their portfolio stability, both now and in the future, investors should tackle both these immediate issues as well as the deeper implications of AI. This starts with establishing stronger governance frameworks, clear principles, and practices to integrate responsible AI or trustworthy AI standards into all applications. I'm talking with a special guest from the VC community, a venture capitalist community, Jenny Lowe. Jenny works at 60 Degree Capital. She is supporting investment in AI and digital infrastructure as well as transformative software innovation through 60 Degree Capital. Before 60 Degrees, she was working at a VC firm at one of the largest banks in Taiwan. She was leading sourcing, diligence, and supported portfolio communities across enterprise. And I'd like to welcome you, Jenny, and please go ahead and add in anything on your intro if there is something I missed out.
Thank you, Pamela. Nice to be the guest here. So at 60 Degree, we invest a lot in B2B software, mainly in the AI, data, and cybersecurity space. So definitely pleasure to share some observations and some thoughts that we seeing in the AI investment space.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So, Jenny, let's just start off with how you are seeing AI impacting investment today.
Sure. So I will share my experience. So previously I invest more in like general software, and which like the pricing model is a typical SaaS model. And what we're seeing now, AI is really transforming how the typical SaaS world is working. So we can see there are like open AI and a lot of large players competing in the foundational models that's really transforming the way people work and really like adding a lot of transformative changes to different industries. So for AI, we're really seeing the growth, the overall growth curve is super steep, and also the competition is quite fierce. The overall barrier is lowered down given that there are a lot of open sources and a lot of tools available for developer to create their own AI applications. So it's just not like in the past what we see in the software world. Yeah, that's the probably the overview about the how AI is really like changing as a VC investors view on like the pace and the overall growth in the market.
Yes, so you're certainly touching on a very important and a prevalent topic right now in the AI world, which I think is more prevalent today than in the yesteryears because, and I'm referring to open source versus closed source models and closed models, for example. Of course, AI is predictive AI as well as generative AI, but it's really good to get your perspective on how generative AI has changed the investment community and how you're viewing that. Um, let's talk. Like to learn a little bit on your perspective on if you can share about how and what are you investing in when it comes to AI.
Yeah, so I think recently we're looking a lot on the AI infrastructure space because just like I mentioned, there are a lot of tools available already for building AI application. But for AI infrastructure, which really change fundamentally how AI can be adopted and how it works in the enterprise, that would be like something we're interested in. And usually what we're looking for is like companies with a deep tech mode that is building the infrastructure can have really significant changes to the AI application. So I will say AI infra and the related data infra. It's something we're super interested in right now.
Okay, that's certainly interesting and a heavy area for investment growth when it comes to infrastructure, because without that, there is no upper layers of application. Or now, do you? I hear you said infrastructure and data infrastructure. How do you differentiate that?
So AI infrastructure probably sits more in the like training and how the model being fine tuned. So we can hear a lot of terms right now like fine tuning, reg, and like terms like this. So AI infra is sitting more in like how the model being trained, how the model, the prompt being engineered, things like that. And data is like simply like sitting in like a database, how to optimize the data flow, things like that. So it's different sector, but I will say that's quite relevant to each other.
Okay, I agree. I see. So, as you know, infrastructure is one of the highest spend for anybody investing in AI when it
Mhm.
comes to a company adopting or implementing AI. So, it stands to reason that cybersecurity, of course, is a very critical area when it comes to selecting that infrastructure, putting those controls in place. Because if you don't have the right infrastructure security or data security, that can heavily impact the outcomes that are coming out of the investment in that infrastructure into that AI adoption, as well as the outcomes. Um, so, if you want to add anything to that, please do so. I would love to get your perspective as well. But I do want to stress, highlight again that that is AI infrastructure is technology spend. That is where the maximum biggest spend comes from a company perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So, like you mentioned, cybersecurity is super critical, especially for enterprise when they want to adopt AI. They need to make sure all the data is safe and like secured, especially for the privacy concerns. There are a lot of companies playing in this field, trying to protect like personal information or sensitive information not being exposed and not being like hacked from the enterprise. So definitely, what we're seeing now, like LLM security, is a really hot topic lately, and I think there is a also interesting area that I am like looking at is how to protect the AI generated fake identity. So there are a lot of Gen AI, but it's faked IDs like everywhere. Especially, I think it suffers more in the financial sector. There are a lot of fraud caused by those fake identity, and some cyber company or some newer newer technology are trying to protect these fraud and to detect those fake IDs. So these are some areas that we've seen in the field.
So these fake IDs, is that for accessing the data or the model, or are these for as sources of information? Where are you seeing the prevalence for the occurrence of the fake IDs and their fraud behavior?
Yeah, for example, if a user want to apply for a credit, or they need to like apply for some financial services, they need to go through some sort of KYC process, know your customer process, and those fake ID they can create a brand new identity, having a new name, a new location, and with some fake activities to kind of um, fool out those KYC processes. And if that works out, then the fraud is likely to happen. So this is an area a lot of financial sector is trying to protect. And in addition to like the online application, there are also fake audio ID. So sometimes you might need to like go through some certain audio verification that is recording your voice pattern to make sure you're the right person and the real person. And for now, AI can achieve to generate those like fake audio to kind of fool out the system. So cybersecurity is like a guardrail, always trying to identify what kind of new attack or new fraud is, and trying to protect that.
Yeah, thank you. That is extremely important. That and very interesting, Jenny. This is something I talked about a couple of years ago about how in financial institutions where audio can be used for verification purposes, how not only is it important to protect and treat voice as in the recorded format on the servers as protected data, but also what are the process changes that financial institutions need to implement to put those guardrails around what are the verification processes that exist for verifying if an audio is deep fake, for example.
Yeah.
And of course, to your point, which is excellent, it's not just about now, it's taking it to a new level, right? Where you create deep fake not just for audio, but you can create a new identity and a new and correlated forms of verifying where all that might exist in terms of producing insights, producing online activities, so it looks like it's a real valid identity. So that's really important to highlight for the audience that this is not only is it a new development, but it's impossible to even anticipate all the threat profiles and the threat vectors because it is rapidly changing and because of the way that the technology is, as and I mentioned, when I say technology, I'm referring to AI, how it's so dynamic. And so we have to kind of adapt and grow to the threat vectors. Um, what now? Let's switch gears, right? We talked about some of the risks. What do you feel are some of the ways to capitalize on the AI potential from the investment perspective?
Yeah, so to talk about AI investment, there are like different perspectives. So for us as a VC, we definitely want to identify the startups that has the high potential to grow, and their technology can be widely adopted in the future. But there are also investment perspectives from the large tech players like the cloud providers and some data um, data software companies, they're also trying to adopt AI to make their service more tailor-made for the customers or improve their efficiency, things like that. And for the general consumer, I think AI is being quite commonly used to increase the productivity. So there are several different perspectives, and as a VC, I would say how we will probably evaluate the company is whether the tools can be like widely used enough. Like for example, they might need to for some AI models that the company are using, probably they need to fit in the multi-model kind of scenario. So like in the past, probably LM itself can process the text and some like content just on the words. But now we're trying to see if there are multi-model scenarios that can fit in audios, images, even videos. So it can be more broadly used. So for B2B B2B solutions, also we want to make sure that the AI tool can fit in their workflow smoothly, and also whether they can fitting like the from the data base integration to probably if they need some analytics to be used from the business unit, things like that. So there are a lot of different angle we're looking at. And of course, the valuation for AI we see now is pretty high. So from for financial perspectives, we also want to see if the financial returns really make sense for investors.
So that's very insightful. Thank you. Now, what would you say? How can you automate that? How do you manage that, or how do you get those insights? Is there a way to create a formula for it, or do you have a formula for doing that?
I think the secret sauce is all different from different investors. So like for us, we have our team has technical members who can verify the technology by using it, and we also take a lot of references calls from the industry expert, because like how those tools being used in the enterprise, we don't have the firsthand knowledge. We need to kind of learn from the industry. So that's how we really learn. And of course, catching up the trend with all other VCs and trying to learn their perspectives, and also create our own perspectives. Like if we see a lot of deals in the AI security, then we kind of have our thought on what is the real pain point is, and what kind of solution can really solve these problems.
I have a question for around. Is there a best practices that the VC community shares around, what are some pitfalls to avoid? Maybe not, of course, around what could be a competitive edge or, the secret sauce, obviously, but more around, what are some of the obvious red flags to avoid, for example?
For red flags, so probably I can break down into different criteria we're looking at. So team is definitely important, especially for AI. Sometimes we see companies that only have technology, but they don't really have in-depth industry proprietary knowledge. Sometimes it's critical if they are building a vertical AI. Um, and we will look at the team's previous experience, whether they have successful previous exit experience to see whether the leaders can really lead the company to scale. So that's one. And the other is really the product itself, whether compared to other incumbents or newer competitors, what are their advantages, and if it's strong enough. So sometimes if it's just a I'll say shallow application, it can be easily replaced by like someone else, or if like the larger player already have some development in the space, then we'll probably be aware of that. So competition, it's important thing that we look at, and also the market size. So there are some players in a very niche market, but for VCs, if the market cannot really grow significantly, or it is not big enough, then we probably will also make some judgment on it. So there are like different criteria we're looking at. And for red flags, I think really depends on what kind of company it is. But these are some general ideas.
Yeah, I think we have all seen, smaller companies who had niche ideas, and then it was created by a larger company. And then it's a question of, how the smaller companies either going to continue with that or get acquired, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so we've seen that with quite a few things. I think some have kind of stood and held their ground, like Midjourney, for example, and some of the other folks. But it is interesting to see that that does play into the VC mindset as well. If this is already being offered as functionality by a bigger company.
Yeah.
So I just have one more question, because we've covered a lot of really important ground, I think. I'd like to conclude with, what this podcast foundation is, which is Trustworthy AI, and how you see the role of trustworthiness in your investments when it comes to AI. Do you see it adding to your risk, or does it reduce risk? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in terms of trustworthiness, it's really impacting whether it has some potential risk if the users are using it. So for some enterprise, if they are to adopt AI solutions and it has some potential biases, or if like it doesn't really make the accurate predictions, then it might cause some really big problem. So for trustworthiness, I think AI is a space that you need to strike a balance, like how intelligent it is, and but also you need to make sure the human in the loop, if it's critical, it doesn't really have conflict on that end. So I think trustworthiness is a risk that we will assess like how the company is using the data, how the data is being protected, and how the human judgment comes into play, and how those models are trained, whether there are some visibility to the models, things like that. And there are also some topics around how to kind of mitigate those risks, or how to improve the trustworthiness. I think those topics itself is like a huge area that might be become more and more important.
Okay, thank you. So since that's been my focus for the last 6 years, is trustworthiness, I do agree that if it has to be accurate, firstly, what you are producing, and there is so much room for drift, whether it's data drift or algorithmic drift. It's really important that is first and foremost, that you are producing and getting the the values and outcomes that you're expecting. And after that, comes all the other things. Are you protecting? Do you have, so you touched upon a couple of the pillars that, we have a trusted AI, which is security, privacy, ethics, definitely, safety and security and reliability. It all comes together. But it's been very interesting talking to you, and I really appreciate, everything that we've talked about. I think is a great value for the audience. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. It's a pleasure to have this discussion.
Thank you.